The mandate given to me by the executive governor of the state, Abdurrahman Abdulrazak, is to find ways to expand the tax net, but ensure we do not increase rates as much as possible. So we started off with looking at our systems. If we're going to be improving IGR the way we have been mandated to, we need to look at our systems. Our systems, in essence, talking about automation, talking about how we're going to block leakages and how we're going to increase that tax net, meaning those who were not paying taxes before should get into the tax net and be able to pay the appropriate taxes. Our stakeholders, both those who are compliant and those who are not, we want to appreciate all of you. The stakeholders too, the taxpayers, very importantly. We have seen people come to us even without us going to them. We've also stepped on toes by enforcing the necessary activities we need to just to be able to get people to meet their obligations. So we want to sincerely thank everybody. Our taxpayers, when you see us again, don't mind us. It is the job that you have given us to do, because you asked the government to do this, and that means government needs to make money. So we want to sincerely thank everybody for supporting us, and we believe that together we can do a lot more.
Many thanks for staying with us. Of course, you are still on to the Friday edition of the AM Drive. Of course, we are moving on to our discussion segment. This morning, we continue to take a look at the activities of the Kwara State Internal Revenue Service. Of course, you must be used to the faces we shall be seeing shortly. We have some members of the Kwara State Internal Revenue Service with us. Of course, we have Mr. Shehu Abdullahi. He is the Director Legal and Compliance of the Kwara State Internal Revenue Service. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for being here.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much.
Of course, beside him is Mr. Mohammed Usman. He is the Director Income Tax of the Kwara State Internal Revenue Service. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, madam.
It's a pleasure having you.
My pleasure.
Ẹ kú àbọ̀ sórí ètò ẹ̀yin ará lé gẹ́gẹ́ bí ẹ ṣe mọ̀ wípé kò rọrùn láti mú lápò àmọ́ ó yẹ kí a máa gba àwọn àlejò wa lálejò lẹ́kọ̀ọ́ wọn kẹ́rin àwọn pé owó tí à ń san yìí ó níbi tó ń lọ ó sì ní iṣẹ́ tí ó mọ̀ ṣe fún wa ọdún ni wọ́n kì í ṣe àìmọ̀ fún olóko Mr. Shehu Abdullahi ni wọ́n mójútó tí wọ́n jẹ́ olùdarí àwọn tí ó mójútó ọ̀rọ̀ òfin ní orí owó sísan ẹ káàbọ̀ sórí ètò.
Ẹ káàbọ̀ yà wá.
Nígbà tí Mr. Mohammed Usman tí wọ́n jẹ́ olùdarí fún owó tó ń wọlé ẹ káàbọ̀ sórí ètò sà.
Ẹ ṣé gan ni ma.
ẹ̀yin ará lé ẹ máa tẹ̀lé wa bọ̀.
All right, let me come to Mr. Mohammed Usman, the Director Income and Income Tax, Kwara State Internal Revenue Service. Let's talk about the activities of the service. Of course, in 2021, the Internal Revenue of Kwara State was put about 16 billion naira. If I'm correct, if I'm right to confirm that. But of course, just in 2021, the first quarter, I believe it was about 18 billion, if not more than that. More than that. Right?
First quarter of 2022. No, it was not up to 2022.
2022.
The first quarter. It's about 10.7
billion naira.
Yes.
But there was a massive increment from 2021
exactly.
to 2022.
An increment of about 1 billion. compared to the first quarter of 2021.
Now, my question is, what were the new innovations that were introduced to see that increase? 1 billion naira is not child's play; it's a big money. So, what were the innovations that was introduced that led about this massive increment of revenue?
Okay, thank you very much. If you look at the history of the service for the past 3.5, 4 years, you observe that we've been improving on our figures, year in, year out, and is what you are saying is just not is something that is seen from collective effort, and of course the focus of management to ensure we continue to improve on the processes to ensure that money comes in. So what we try to do is to ensure that first and foremost is to block all the loopholes, because you must agree with me, there are some loopholes.
Leakages.
Yes, so mostly what we try to do is to block most of those leakages to the detriment of some people. Maybe that's why most people don't really like us. But that is one thing we have to do to ensure that we also automate all our processes. Because when you automate the processes and you allow people to see less of cash, taxpayer space directly using the automated system, the payment platforms, you eliminate the opportunity of people committing fraud. So what we try to do is to ensure that we bring all these innovations, improve on our tax administration soft system and the work and the software we have, to ensure that we continue to look at all the processes. Actually, let me just talk about our vehicle management system. We used to have a consultant. I need that for the state. The consultant was in about 26 states of the federation, but we felt we have the manpower. We have people in the system that we can, let's build up a system like that we can, optimize our collection and also eliminate some of the, expenses that comes with it. So we have an office, we have a business team, a business development process. We always, develop our processes to ensure that we look at every line of collection. And then what we try to do is also to ensure that we increase the tax base. Most of the people that are not in the tax system, we bring them in. And of course, to those that are already in the system, we also try to say that they don't just pay what they feel they want to pay to government. We ensure to the best of our ability by establishing facts, because taxation is all about facts. Bringing the facts to the table to understand, make them understand that you need to pay this and this and this, and you understand. And then we sit down, we discuss, and we make most of these high network people to pay their due, what they're supposed to pay. And of course, to those in the paid employment, we try to do a lot of monitoring. Some people might tell you, pay, it's not just pay, it will always come. It's not as easy as you think, because people underpay. You understand? They even deduct at times. Whatever they're supposed to calculate, they don't do the right thing. Even when they deduct, they don't bring in the correct amount. So we ensure we monitor the taxpayers up to all the federal FMDAs. You understand? Even though we have an office in Abuja to ensure that we do our monitoring properly, and we ensure that we get everything that is due to the state and comes in. So these are some of the things we continue to do. Most of the things to improve our processes, to ensure that we look at every line. Every line is important to us, and we sit down we form strategic teams to look at each of those lines. What do we need to do better to ensure that we get the best out of what we have? And with the leadership of Chief Shadowmoney, she's been very wonderful. Is a management team, with our management team that ensures that we sit down together, we have a listening here, we operate an open door policy, we allow ideas to flow, and then in our strategic meetings we sit down and look at issues, into details to ensure that we continue to improve our collections. And that has actually shown, in what we're getting in. And as I'm talking to you now, as at end of November, we've already surpassed what we brought in last year.
Yes.
As at end of November, we already have that, and the figures are looking very good. And what we also do that works for us is that despite the fact that we have the budget being given to the state, internally we also come in and we have a stretch budget. So whatever the state gives to us as budget for the year, we also had some billions to it. We stretch ourselves. It's okay. We don't just, as when the government says, do 30 billion, it's okay. Within the system, it is 36, it is 37 billion.
Is that not putting so much pressure on yourself in achieving that?
It's not pressure, because if you are in this business it comes with pressure.
Then you don't feel like, okay, you have a target that you must meet, in any way that you can. You put so much pressure.
If you don't
like he's laughing, but that is just true. That's like putting pressure.
See, that's how we work. See, you see, early generation is serious business. It's serious business. That's why when people say we're public servants, we still don't see our setup is not really like public service. It's still more of like the way we run it, private sector. Most of us in the service, we all have decades of experience in the private sector. I have about 25 years experience in the private sector before coming into this job. So I'm used to really working in the banking industry for the past 20 years. I'm used to that pressure of, having to work with targets. And I know I have, most of our staff have this banking experience and they are already used to, background, they're already used to, working under the terrain. Because that is how it is supposed to be. It is not a business that you go and relax. And you say, I've got to build no, it doesn't. It's not that kind of business. It's serious business that comes with, serious.
Okay, Mr. Usman, still on you, because much earlier you talked about ensuring that the payee do not underpay. Now who determines the amount the payee should be? Now, is it KWRS or is it the establishment? Who determines that?
Thank you. The law determines what you're supposed to pay. There's a law, there's a personal income tax act, and it dictates what people are supposed to pay. Now, what the law has said is that it does not, in people in the paid employment, the law now makes the employer an agent of government, gives them that responsibility to ensure they do the right thing according to what the law says. And what are they supposed to do? They're supposed to capture all the salaries and emoluments, allowances of their employees. They have accountants in all these various organizations, so the accountants know what to do. They know how to calculate all this. So it is their responsibility to ensure that they capture, first of all the incomes, not leaving some incomes out. That is where the payment comes in. Like when you're not trying to, maybe you only look at basic, look at transfer, maybe you take out housing, this is where all these things comes in. You must bring in all the allowances in. Now, when you bring in all these allowances, the law also says there are some exempts you give to the employees, there are some allowances you give to them before you get the accessible income. From the accessible income, you cannot apply the rates to the to the base, and then at the end of the day, you cannot get what is the tax paid. Now, when they do that, at times where the problem comes now is if they don't do the computation well, that's where the error comes in. At times they don't do the computation well, and then the figure they arrive at, they send to us, it can cause under payment. Another area where it comes in is they might even do the correct deductions, and they don't remit the correct amount to us. Do you understand? And of course, all these things have implications. And what we try to tell all these officers is that don't think you are an accountant and you are covered. No, the law says we can pick you up because you are responsible. Do you understand? So we can go to that to unveil the masquerade and say, okay, this is the man that is doing this. Like recently, I saw one accountant rush down to my office and when I quoted the implications on him. He came running that, I don't want to go to jail. I said, no, I'm not interested in sending you to jail. It's just that I observed that you are not remitting your pay and then let you know the implications.
I was going to ask about the implication of not remitting, this amount of money to the appropriate quarters. Mr. Ashe will have to what are the penalties for that? Is it just to come and beg you, please don't put me to shame or something? What does the law say about that?
Please, we'll beg you tomorrow.
Thank you very much. As the Director of Income said, the law considers the employer as agents of government. So once you are an agent, then the government becomes the principal, and meaning that agent-principal relationship exists. So there's not a duty of care on the employer towards the government. So both ways, if you did not deduct appropriately, it's an offense. That is, if you commit under deduction, it's an offense. Now, if you deduct the right thing and you under remit, it's another offense. So both has implications, and the implication is criminal. You see, I say taxation could be viewed as civil obligation. That's what they say. But if you breach it, it becomes a crime. And once it's a crime and you are taken to court and you are convicted, you become an ex-convict. It doesn't mean that it's just under reduction or just under remittance. A crime is crime.
But does your agents also work with the EFCC in this kind of situation?
Yes, we have a desk at the EFCC. We call it task desk. There's a particular officer assigned to that desk. And we work very harmoniously with the EFCC because in recent time, most of the taxpayers, particularly schools, they take advantage of a provision in the Finance Act. As a provision in Finance Act 2019, 2020, 2021, that once you are receiving below the minimum wage, 30,000 below, you are exempted from paying PAYE. So what most of these schools now do is that in the figure they send to director income, in the schedule of salaries, maybe for example they have 30 staff, they will not say 25 of that staff are any less than 30. So when we receive that and it becomes so consistent, okay, what we do is that the first thing is to ask them to give us their bank statements. At least you pay your staff through bank. Some of them will still dodge us. So we will now contact the relevant desk at the FCC. So they will just invite them. At the end of the day, in fact, we have about 3 cases at hand now. And 2 of them have just said, okay.
Once you get the invitation from the EFCC, it's enough for you to surrender.
So that's the issue.
And let me write on that. So the last time I attended the program of the National Association of Private Providers, the NAPS or something, I took the advantage of that, to also explain to them that why do you have to understate the salaries of your workers? Why do you have to put yourself in trouble? Just know it that it is everybody's obligation to pay their taxes. You are paying them their salaries, state the amount you are paying them. Whatever is the due thing that is supposed to be deducted, you do it. If you don't do it, and I told you we have so many desks, apart from the ESC desk, we have a strong investigative department desk. When we get all these things, and then at the end of the day, you get sanctioned, you start having a criminal record because you don't want a staff to pay their tax. Are you helping yourself?
No, you are getting yourself.
Yes, no, you are not. So please, people should just do the right thing. Let us all know that we must accept that payment of taxes, is a legal obligation. You must pay your own part and ensure whatever you're supposed to pay. We all pay our dues before we need to pay employment. When I see my pay slip, so I see everything that I earn goes there and it is taxed and we pay to the last couple. So, and that is why if I can pay my own to the last couple, why should somebody else not pay their own to the last couple? Everybody must, pay theirs and make sure we do the right thing.
Of course, I still have more questions for you, but let's go to Fatih.
Káàbọ̀ sá lẹ́yìn kan sí orí ètò bóyá ìbéèrè ni màá darí ẹ̀ sọ́dọ̀ Mr. Abdullahi nítorí Mr. Usman ní àwọn
ẹ má gbà fúrúkọ ó ti kọ̀wé kan ní sinmi.
Gẹ́gẹ́ bí àtàbà wà pé ní ọdún tó kọjá tí a bá gbé yẹ̀wò sí ọdún yìí ìyàtọ̀ tó pọ̀ ló wà láàrin nǹkan tí bá wọlé lẹ́yìn tí ó jẹ́ oríyìn fún yín ṣé kákìyín kúṣẹ́ ni àbí túláàsì àmì yàn.
Ẹ kọ́kọ́ kí wàá kúṣẹ́ ṣe gẹ́gẹ́ bí wọ́n ti sọ ní Gẹ̀ẹ́sì nǹkan tó jẹ́ kó easy bẹ́ẹ̀ ni pé àwọn àpò kan tó já tẹ́lẹ̀ tó ń jómi dànù ó wà ní have to be sincere àpò tó já yẹn omi wà lọ́dọ̀ àwọn tara wa náà lọ́dọ̀ àwọn staff wa omi wà lọ́dọ̀ àwọn MDAs so gbogbo àpò tó jò yẹn àdì gbọ́dọ̀ àdẹ̀sẹ̀ rí di through technology ni because tẹ́lẹ̀ before kátólópé abẹ̀rẹ̀ tiwa owó physical cash la máa ń kó lọ but because through our payment platform a ní kíkọ́ tó ń pè ní self service platform ìyẹn enable àwọn èèyàn láti pay through either quick teller remitter or pay arena so meaning that once you have money in your account kò ní dìkẹsẹ̀ gbá àbíkẹ́ máa wá lágàtà tó ń bá yẹn san ẹ̀ lè san fúnra yẹn so gbogbo yẹn náà ó reduce the leakages then secondly àwọn tí kò sí ní tax net wa tẹ́lẹ̀ àmú wọn wọlé especially àwọn HNI then secondly a tún rí i pé because before now àwọn èèyàn parọ́ mọ́ COVID-19 a ní challenges yẹn seriously ní 2020 wọ́n ní COVID-19 ò jẹ́ káwọn ó so but after the COVID-19 tún lọ wọ́n tún rí fásitì COVID-19 okay báyìí pé COVID-19 náà lè bá ṣàtún ṣe so we now intensify our own investigative team so a rí i pé àwọn arípa àwọn èèyàn kan parọ́ ni pẹ̀lú nǹkan tí wọ́n declare fún wa so fair assessment tá à ń fún wọn ó tún jẹ́ kí a rí àwọn owó gbà secondly tí mo tún rí ni pé àwọn revenue items kan bẹ tí kò sí tẹ́lẹ̀ because yeah for example before now item kan bẹ under land charge wọn kì í gbà tẹ́lẹ̀ àti introduce ẹ̀ nísìn tí kò bá jẹ́ pé governor ní ká máa introduce ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ tax àti ní àwọn tax tí ó tó mẹ́fà that were introduced yóò ṣeré tí wọ́n ń gbà níbòmíì táwọn náà dẹ̀ ti ní lọ́ọ̀tà tí lè máa gbà but because of the decision pé gómìnà ní kásámá ti fi kankan kú mẹ̀kúnnù kan ló máa san tax tá à ń sọ yìí for example ẹni tó ní nǹkan sọ̀kan nínú ẹ̀ à ń pe tax kan ní antenna ewu àwọn antenna tẹ̀ ń rí yẹn so ti ní bank àti all other telecommunication systems à ń gbà.
Mẹ̀kúnnù ni ó padà sí.
Mẹ̀kúnnù kọ́ ló máa san
ẹ jẹ́ kí òun wà á rí lórí mẹ̀kúnnù.
Okay, for example,
tí gómìnà wa wò.
ẹ jẹ́ kí n sọ fún yín. There is this former Bureau of Land, now called them Kwara State Geographical Information Service.
Okay.
Section 3 law 1 of that law 2020. Ó fún wọn ní agbára láti gba tax lórí cables, antenna, or all those installations. And tó bá ní installations ṣe mẹ̀kúnnù máa ń dá rédíò lẹ̀ for example tí mẹ̀kúnnù lè dá lè ṣe rédíò lẹ̀ ẹ dá mi lóhùn.
olówó yóò dálẹ̀.
Now tó bá di kó dálẹ̀ sàn pé kíní yẹn ń cost some vibration tó ń pè àbí radiation thank you radiation is earth hazard ẹ̀ ò dá lára mẹ̀kúnnù but wọ́n dẹ̀ ń cost radiation to the general public kò lẹ́nu kankan sanwó fún àwọn dẹ̀ make owó wọn dẹ̀ san tax fún kíní yẹn mẹ̀kúnnù kan la fẹ́ ràn lọ because tó bá gba owó yẹn ó ní nǹkan tí ló tó ṣe so náà ló fà so gbogbo àwọn nǹkan tó fà tí a tún fi.
ó dà ẹ ṣe gan sa ìbéèrè mi kejì òun ni lórí àwa tí à ń san owó orí àwa tá à ń ṣiṣẹ́ ìjọba àwa tá à ń ṣiṣẹ́ owó oṣù ká má ní iṣẹ́ ìjọba because àwọn aládàáni nínú ẹ̀sán tẹ́lẹ̀tẹ́lẹ̀ lórí basic salary nìkan náà tí wọ́n á yọ tax àmọ́ nísìnyí àti gbogbo àwọn all the incomes they will add it together all the allowances and everything orí ẹ̀ náà máa ti wá yọ tax nísìnyí ṣé bẹ́ẹ̀ ló ṣe kúrò ní ṣé bẹ́ẹ̀ ni òfin ṣe gbé kalẹ̀.
tọ ẹ ti dá lóhùn ẹ ti ràn mí lọ́wọ́ òfin ló gbé kalẹ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ because global income lòfin sọ allowance náà income ni ẹ kàn pa ọkọ rẹ̀ dání so gbogbo ẹ̀ náà máa kó papọ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ tó bá wò náà gẹ́gẹ́ ti ṣàlàyé fún yín gbà yẹn the fact pé allowance yín àti total income jẹ́ 1 million gbogbo 1 million náà kan máa tax àwọn exempt yìí wọn á yọ kó ń bẹ consultant allowance wọn á yọ kó at the end of the day out of 1 million bóyá tẹ máa tax ojú bí 200,000 làbí 300,000 maximum kó pọ̀ kí gbogbo owó yín náà ni for example tẹ bá tún ṣe pension nísìnyí wọn á yọ pension kan tó lè pé wọn gbé rate lérí base tó bá kù tẹ́gẹ̀tẹ̀ báyìí tẹ bá ṣe NSITF wọn á yọ kó ń bẹ gbogbo àwọn owó tẹ̀ ìsọ́tò gbogbo ẹ̀ wọn á yọ kó ń bí salary yìí èyí tó bá kù ní wọn máa tax. So ma rí pé at the end of the day owó tẹ̀ ń sanwó tax is so negligible.
rárá o sà tọ́lá ti háàdì gbogbo àwọn owó ìtàn including the allowances o wọ́n á ṣẹ̀ wá yọ tax wọ́n á ṣẹ̀ wá máa yọ àwọn nǹkan tí wọ́n bá yọ ń sàlẹ̀.
ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀ ní accountant.
wọ́n dẹ̀ wá sí pé yí workshop wa àpẹẹrẹ ẹgbẹ́ accountant yìí kò ṣe nǹkan tó fi nìkan ṣe tó bá gbówó yín kalẹ̀ báyìí gbówó yín kọ́ mi balẹ̀ báyìí ká tó gbé rate of tax lé wọ́n á yọ gbogbo àwọn akọ́sẹ̀ tàṣàgbà àwọn tax exempt àti allowances tó yẹ kẹ́ ẹ níyẹn ètò bá kù náà máa apply rate lé.
ẹ ṣé fowó ìṣe ń jáde lápò tiwọn ṣé bẹ́ẹ̀ ló ń wọlé sọ́dọ̀ yẹn.
ẹ̀yin lábẹ́rẹ́ lọ́wọ́ yín báyìí ọ̀dọ̀ yín láti béèrè
ẹ̀yin lówó ń wá ń bá ẹ̀
lásìkò tí ń fi rìnrìn àjò àmọ́ àbálù tí ń bá because
ẹ̀yin ò sì wádìí.
à ń wádìí àwọn èèyàn sì ń ferí fà because àti rí sáàsì tó jẹ́ pé tí wọ́n bá deduct ẹ̀ táwọn paper n tí ó máa dọ́dọ̀ wa kò ní tó nǹkan tán deduct so sẹ pé there was a full deduction but there was an underarrangement tax ibò mímọ tó jẹ́ pé wọ́n ní gédégédé là ń fẹ́ san fún staff àwọn for example bóyá wo salary wage máa jẹ́ 50 million wọ́n wá rí 25 million for that particular month àwọn òpó ẹja kọ́kọ́ san ẹja san 25 million n tó fi sọ ni pé nígbà pé pay àṣeyẹn lórúkọ kínní yẹn so the percentage of tax tó yẹ kí wọ́n san fún láàrin 25 million yẹn ó yẹ kí wọ́n yọ but àti ní sáǹsì tó pé you see some company wọ́n san salary 6 months half fún staff wọn but for those 6 months no tax element will come to KWRS. It's illegal because the space as because one must pay into salary. Salary. It is very wrong. But 80% in salary the 80% equivalent tax element we can sort of.
Ó yẹ kan lórí àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ gan tán bá ti yọ tax lórí ìlàjì tán san yẹn ṣé lórí ìlàjì tó kù ni wọ́n ti wá yọ gbogbo di tax tó.
Tí máa ṣẹlẹ̀ nìyẹn wọ́n wà ní arrears of taxes because at the end of the day táwọn department wa ní department kan tó ń pè ní tax audit tó ń bá wá lọ sí audit wọn wá rí i pé a lot of outstanding wa a lot of because I can not mention because we have MDAs, we have institutions that only holds up to 47 million. Wow. A year outstanding. And that institutions want just staff one salary 1 month. Because one young people, but owó dodo wa tàbí ká mọ̀ jẹ́ pé nǹkan san ni pé kan yin san salary wọ́n bá ti dédé tó lè san salary wọn.
Yòókù
Wọ́n kò sí tó kàn wọ́n. And it's offence. Kódà. Ẹ bá rí pé 19,000 ló yẹ kí.
Ẹ̀yin gẹ́gẹ́ bí ẹni tó wá mójútó ọ̀rọ̀ òfin lórí owó sísan kí ni àwọn ìjìyà àbí kò sí ìjìyà kankan ẹ kàn mọ́ sí wọn náà.
Ṣé ẹ mọ̀ pé tí kan bá jẹ́ ìjọba sí ìjọba wọ́n ní ó ní bẹ́yàn tí máa ṣe
ẹran ọba ló mú ṣọba jẹ.
ẹran ọba náà ní máa mú ṣu jẹ́ gbà mí because seriously because èyí tí mo sọ pé 47 million yẹn ó ń cause a lot of issue because ó dé stage kan tí crisis ìṣẹ̀lẹ̀ ní institution yẹn because to the astonishment of the staff and the students níbẹ̀ wọ́n mọ̀ pé school kò wá ní èyí in fact when the association came to us for meeting wọ́n ní kò sí dídé bẹ́ẹ̀ pé
wọ́n yọwó lórí àwọn
ṣé ẹ mọ̀ pé irú issue yẹn tabarika escalate it will cause a lot of crisis so what we needed to do is just to answer for them. So that is why Director Income said we have introduced something now. We call it pay alert, SMS alert. Okay. So that once you give us the phone number of all your staff, as they remit for that month, we just send SMS to them. We have received so amount from you from your month. But one thing, that will expose them to some extent. So they are not cooperating with us by giving us the phone number of their staff.
And there's nothing you can do about it?
There are a lot of things. Most of these laws, activate people will just feel because if you are full.
We do know that. We do know that some MDs actually generate revenue themselves as well. So when we wonder where this money goes, where do they pay such money to? Is it the KWRS or where exactly does this money generated goes to? Or do they just keep it to themselves and maintain their MDAs?
Well, let me just say the legal aspect. The Director Income will give you you say some MDAs generate revenue for themselves.
For the state?
For the state. You see, the word generation, I want to tell you that we do not generate revenue, KWRS. Most of these, or should I say all the revenues, are domiciled in the MDAs. And they have, each of the MDAs has law that back their revenue. So it is principally their revenue. We only drive it for collection purpose. And once we drive it, like I said, we have platform that once this revenue seamlessly just go to that platform. It doesn't come to us. So the issue of generation of revenue, we have that mandate to generate. But the actual revenues are domiciled in the MDAs because each of the MDAs has law that empowers them to get that revenue for government.
So in addition, what we do is after identifying all those revenue lines, it's now our own duty as backed by the Kwara State Revenue Administration Law 2015 as amended, giving us the power and the mandate to do the collection. So after identifying what we now do, all these MDAs, what they do is we all have our workers in all the various offices. We work with them as a team because actually we are a team. And they have budget line for all these revenues. And of course, their revenue budget is also our home budget. So we drive it and we ensure all these monies are collected. And when they are being collected, it goes to the appropriate account. which is a Kwara State internal generated IGR account. It's not, doesn't go to Kwara State IRS account. The money does not go there, so it goes to the appropriate account. So what we also do is also to continue to monitor and also do the reconciliation, because it's a whole big process. It's not just collecting. You have to continue to update the records. And I'm continuing to look into our own filing system, our registry system. We are about automating our registry department now, so I ensure that retrieval of information is seamless. So these are all the things we do with the MDAs, and of course we also look at all their revenue lines and we continue to develop it. Just last week that we ended up, we look at all the lines. Last week we were able to develop about 3 different modules for Ministry of Education, and one of the modules is DEC. So I make it seamless. Instead of, we observe that most of the time when people pay all their school fees, it's cash, and we're trying to eliminate that. We've done some trainings to ensure that Ministry of Education, work together with us to ensure that all those collections are done online. We're done with that. And of course, there's so many ministries, Ministry of Justice, we've worked with them seamlessly, we've developed so many platforms. So we work like that with all the various agencies.
HMB also.
HMB, yeah. And one of the most beautiful with HMB is the hospital's collection. If you go to General Hospital, you'll go there, you'll see our tabs, you'll see our seamless, our guys. We try to eliminate paperwork as much as possible. Right there on the tab, our staff there will tell you what your bill is immediately, and you pay. The records goes there immediately, and the money it's the IGR account instantly. So these are some of the things we do with the MDAs to ensure that all their collections we have budget for, which is also part of our own budget. We ensure that we drive them and collect them.
I'm still with you, Mr. Usman. Of course, with all the enlightenment, you're of course telling us how important it is for us to pay our tax, because it is a criminal offense if you don't pay your tax. But what will you say is the level of compliance? Now, do you think Kwarans are beginning to understand that yes, we need to pay our tax? Is there improvement in the level of compliance, or are we still at the same level?
I would say it has never been on the same level. Okay. From last year to this year, I know we've added over close to 100,000 taxpayers to our database. I know what the figure used to look like last year. And I know as of last week when I updated the figure, our taxpayers, the list that we have on the data. So it has shown that there is tremendous improvement. But what I will also tell you is that there's still a lot of room for improvement. I've looked at the numbers we have now. We have an idea of what the population of Kwara State is. We have an idea of what we feel should be the workforce. And what we have already captured in the tax set is not close to what. Yes, and so there's a lot of room for improvement, and that's why we ensure that we drive ourselves to ensure that we continue to bring in more people into the tax.
Ẹ̀kọ́ àbọ̀ ikọ̀ àtótónu látàárọ̀ tí a bá wò á ti mọ̀ pé ó pọn dandan fún wa láti san orí lórí bí Yorùbá ṣe wọ́n ní dandan lówó orí túláàsì lásán gbọ́ra. Ṣé àwọn èèyàn wa wọ́n wá ń tẹ̀lé àwọn òfin bó ṣe kán tẹ̀lé àbí oní tipátipá náà sì ni? Mr. Abdullahi.
Gẹ́gẹ́ ti sọ nísìnyí, àwọn èèyàn wa ti because it's a different thing pé a ní wọn nínú database wa. Like you said, we have about 160,000 in our tax net. In the population of about 3 million ní tiwa. But about workforce, kò sí bá ti bí 1.5 million people tó wà ní workforce. Ká máa sọ̀rọ̀ 160,000 out of 1.5 people. Sorry pé kò tí ì sí. Then àwọn 160,000 people ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ wọn ti ń sanwó. But still, àtúndà àwọn mìíràn tí ò tí ì máa tó pé bí tipátipá là fi ń mú wọn. Ìsì dẹ̀ máa ń try láti fọ́ lémi-léjìká púpọ̀, because we don't want to overburden the people. Ká pé gbogbo bí òfin ṣe ní ká máa ṣe fáwọn èèyàn láǹṣẹ́ ni ariwo yẹn á ti pọ̀ jù. So ẹ̀bẹ̀ tá a kan máa bẹ̀ àwọn èèyàn ni pé àwa tá à ń pé kẹ́ sanwó yìí náà àwa náà ń san. Ó tàdé ẹ̀sán yẹn kì í ṣe pàwọ́ lánàá màá máa repeat yẹn o. Mo lọ sí meeting kan ní Ministry of Tertiary Education last week pẹ̀lú àwọn head of some ministries. Ẹnìkan wọn sọ bẹ́ẹ̀ accountant wọn pé owó tá a san ó wà lọ́dọ̀ KWRS. Mo ní sir, ọ̀dọ̀ Kwara State government ló wà. Owó ìtẹ̀dẹ̀ san ó lọ sí Kwara State IGR account ní kí sọ́dọ̀ KWRS ló wà. So that perception Africa káwọn yóò bá a mọ̀.
Bóyá nínú àwọn ìpolongo yín bóyá kẹ́ máa fi kún pé owó tẹ̀ ń san yìí o nǹkan báyìí níjọba fi ń ṣe.
A máa fi kún àwọn fi ń kún kọ́ra ní brochure ọ̀kan tó jẹ́ pé.
Ó yẹ kó nítorí àwọn yóò mọ̀ wọ́n máa ń wò yín lórí tẹlifíṣàn sí i pàápàá jùlọ bọ̀dá mi tó wá sọ fún yín wọ́n máa wò pé ẹni bó ṣe sanra
gbogbo owó wa bẹ́ẹ̀ni ẹ̀tọ́ fẹ́ sọ ọ̀tọ̀ mi I have a director mi ní sọ́rùkọ wọn báyìí the very week the director yẹn rí zoom sọ́dọ̀ wa n ta sọ pé ẹ̀rí tó ti yọ̀dí ó ní gbogbo di mi láti fún mi ò ṣeré the first week tó rí zoom ó wá ń lọ ní orí bó ṣe yọ̀dí ó rẹ̀ gbọ́ ó ní àtẹ̀kọ́ mo ti gbé dìbò yíyọ wa
owó ìyá àpò olówó wa o.
sábà àtẹ̀mí náà ni mo ti sábà bí wọ́n sábà.
lórí àwọn tax tẹ́lẹ̀ ó yẹ kẹ́ máa san tí ó yẹ kẹ́ máa gbà lórí àwọn antennas ní orí àwọn amó ẹ̀rọ ìléwọ́ wa yìí a rí pé bí a bá send message ní àbí tá bá pè é rí pé wọ́n máa gbé iye owó tẹ̀ tí lò wá wọ́n á wá kọ síbẹ̀ pé including VAT. Àwọn VAT tí wọ́n á include yìí gbọ́dọ̀ wá anọ́nsàn yẹn fún.
Okay, selling VAT collection FIRS ni Federal Inland Revenue Service.
Okay.
Recently, a Provision and Finance Act under the Stamp Duty Act, particularly Section 3 of 2021 Finance Act, which amended Section 89A of Stamp Duty Act 2011, will introduce what we call EMTL, Electronic Money Transfer Levy, so that any transaction between 10,000 and upward, there is what we call electronic money transfer levy that will be charged by bank. So this money, whatever accumulated, FIRS, because the money should be distributed between the state government and the federal government. 85% of that collection go to the state government, while 15% go to the federal. So all those money, VAT, EMTL, are FIRS collection, but they are being distributed to all those states based on agreed percentage as recognized by law. So it's not our collection, but ultimately state government gets part of that collection.
Exactly. Now, all right, let me still stay with Mr. Shehu Abdullahi. Now, what does the law actually protect citizens, from being exploited by tax authorities? Is there a law that protects the citizens? Let's be on the citizen side for once.
No, we have always been on the citizens side. In fact, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as part of tax collection is concerned, is more in support of the citizens. A lot of insulation, I would say. Yes, the principal legislation for collection of tax in this state, as said, is Kwara State Revenue Administration Law 2015 as amended. That law was signed to law in June 2015. And I tell you, within 1 year, there was an amendment in 2016, within 1 year of operation of that law. And why was that amendment? It's to provide some support to taxpayers. Particularly, I remember Section 12 of the Principal Act was amended in 2016. And what was the purpose? The purpose is to give some justice to taxpayers that feel that the assessment given them by us is unfair.
Okay.
So that section particularly gave them right to object. He's been talking about objection, right of objection. So it now says that, okay, if you feel that your assessment is not fair to you, you now have right to object within 30 days. So that is part of improvement on the principal law. So also, before the amendment of 2016, the principal law says the chief judge of the state has the power to designate magistrate in each local government to attend to revenue law. But ultimately we discovered that most of these local governments does not have a court. Not all local government has a magistrate. So, and to bring justice closer to the people, particularly the taxpayers, so there was an amendment to Section 36 of the Principal Act. And that amendment says that instead of asking the CJ to designate magistrate as revenue court judge, there's now established a revenue court in the center that will now attend to all revenue laws. So, meaning that you don't need to go to any local government. You can just approach, because in some other jurisdiction, what they have is tax appeal tribunal, and the closest one to us, Lagos and Jos.
Wow.
So if have taxpayer has to go to Jos or Lagos to fight for whatever assessment, it will take a lot of how much. Maybe you want to contest an assessment of 30,000, so you now travel to Lagos. So we have now created a revenue court by virtue of a law where taxpayer can ventilate whatever grievances they have in terms of the assessment. So that's part of giving support to taxpayers.
Apart from it, okay.
Sorry, let me add to that. Whatever we're doing is guided by law, and don't forget the laws are made by human beings. And in making those laws too, they bring in the human face of it. They bring it into the law. They also have personal interest. Most of those people that make the laws, maybe they have businesses too, they have people. And so intentionally, you have some sections in the law that protects you and gives you some privileges. We don't see it as loophole. They are intentional acts. They are not loopholes. It is now the onus now lies on the taxpayer. Get familiarize themselves with the law.
And take advantage.
Take advantage of those intentional provisions that protects you and give you some advantages. And if you don't have the time to do that, you can, get consultants to help you do this. Look at it. They know most of these things, and then they can come and help you explore those areas. And of course, I want people to also know that we're not out there to exploit anybody. We don't exploit anybody. We just try to do our job. We have our mandate, and we are strictly, we concentrate on that mandate to ensure that we do our job and without discrimination.
Yeah, talking about the mandate of KWRS. Now let's talk about the laws that guide the activities of KWRS. Are these laws even accessible to everyone?
Okay, thank you very much. Let me just start that. The fact that ignorance of law is not an excuse. So people should get themselves familiar with our law. You can get in our website. Because the principal compendium where you get our law is Law of Kwara State 2005. You get our laws there. But if you can't afford that, once you log into our website, you see our law there. And as he said, it's very important that people get to know our laws. Not only our laws, even the personal income tax laws. Because that will afford you to plan your activities. Tax planning is advantageous to taxpayers. Because if you plan your business activities, you'll be able to know when to do what. And filing of tax return and the rest, like I said, once you have tax planning, if you can't engage yourself, then get somebody to do it for you. Tax planning is effective. It's effective because what you think you pay to consultants, you gain more in it. So our loss is accessible. You can even come to me. I'll give you a hard copy.
Okay, Shemsa, ẹ̀yin gẹ́gẹ́ bí amòfin, ǹjẹ́ ó ní òfin tí ó gbè fún aráàlú láti má jẹ́ kí a fi ipá gba owó lọ́wọ́?
Constitution Nigeria ó fún wọn ní agbára ó dẹ̀ protect aráàlú. Laws of Kwara State, particularly Kwara State Administration Law, ó protect àwọn taxpayer. So what I would just advise àwọn yẹn wá ni pé kí wọ́n lọ lè wá lọ́hùn kí wọ́n rí àwọn ibi tí wọ́n ti protect àwọn. Ẹlòmíì ń kó sí wàhálà because kò mọ̀ pé nínú law wa gan àbò ń bẹ fáwọn. So ẹ jẹ́ kán lọ sí website wa tàbí kán lọ sí.
Wọ́n tún ti dé
torí pé wọ́n mọ tí ń bẹ bẹ́ẹ̀ tó bá lè study àwọn lawyer kọ́dà wọ́n á rí i pé ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ wàhálà táwọn kóra wọn sí is needless. It's needless. So they can get that law in Ministry of Justice on our website. Yes.
All right, we have to wrap up. Our time is really fast spent as we conclude our series of the activities of the KWRS. But before we wrap up, your final words in terms of advice to taxpayers as we wrap up the show. I'll start with Mr. Mohammed.
Thank you. It has always been the practice of the service. Every January, we try to have our PE workshop where we try to enlighten our taxpayers. We bring all these principal accountants from all the various agencies. And then we try to we have different speakers, we bring in people to talk to them. We provide softwares and materials for them to guide them, making sure they calculate well, and do the proper remittance. But I must say the one we did this year, I'm so disappointed that the compliance, despite, I already know these things cost money. The hall alone, you know how much you pay for that hall. And then you now find out that you have spent so much money bringing all these people together in their materials. At the end of the day, you don't do the right thing. Very annoying. So it's likely I might not be able to do another one next. Because the compliance level, because I will not discuss that. We'll tell you, okay, file your returns. If you don't file it, these are the implications. And then I will not see a company that sent a representative. So many like that. And they did not find out. And there's sanction for this. And then when they start writing to say they are sorry, I will now went to court. I asked for my people to go and bring the register. And I saw that they are representatives. You can see how frustrated it
It is.
So please, I want to tell people, please do the right thing, because this is the right time. We're in December. By January, all organizations must file their returns. So I want to use this opportunity to please do the right thing and file your returns.
Is that right?
Just the same thing. Because the success of that pay workshop was drive to my own department. If you do not do the right thing, then the pressure will be on me to go and prosecute them. And this time around, because like I said, last year I had about 200 to prosecute for 500,000 each, but we had the decision that they should not do it. But this year, I'm just pleading, let them do the right thing, because this year there won't be that amnesty.
All right, I would like to thank you so much for being on the show. I'd like to thank Mr. Shehu Abdullahi, he is the Director Legal and Compliance of KWIRS. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
And of course, Mr. Mohammed Usman is the Director Income Tax of KWIRS. It has been a pleasure having you
Thank you very
on the
much.
show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
We really have to wrap up the show, Fatih. I'm not sure if Fatih Mohammed can join us. Would like to say your advice to our director.
adúpẹ́ ẹ̀kọ́ àtúntònú látara Mr. Shehu Abdullahi àti Mr. Mohammed Usman àjíǹde ara yóò máa jẹ mí lóun máa fi ń ṣe. Níbi tí a fi àdàgbètò AM Drive ti òwúrọ̀ èmi ká fi rọ̀ sí òun náà nílé ẹ jẹ́ kí á tẹ̀lé gbogbo nǹkan tí òfin bá ní ká ṣe ká mọ̀ bá kọsẹ̀ lára òfin gẹ́gẹ́ bí a ṣe mọ̀ pé ó ti pẹ́tipẹ́ tí àwọn àgbàlagbà máa sọ pé dandan lówó orí túláàsì aṣọ òpóra fún ìdàgbàsókè ìlú òun náà ni gbogbo nǹkan tí ìjọba ń ṣe yìí ẹ jẹ́ kí àwa náà kí a rí pé àtẹ̀lé wọn ká lè pa káwa náà bá lè lẹ́nu ọ̀rọ̀ láti béèrè nǹkan tó bá tọ́ sí wa lọ́wọ́ ìjọba níbi tí a fi àdàgbò ètò tòní tá a fèrè sí ni akóníyàn kó ṣe akólọ́bẹ̀ kó ṣe àwa tá a jẹ́ àpá ìbínú ọmọ yín ọ̀rẹ́ yín olólùfẹ́ yín Fatima Samanu dágbére pé ayọ̀ àti àlàáfíà òní ẹ̀mú fi pàdé àwọn ikọ̀ mi ní ọjọ́ ajé sí ìgbà náà.
Thank you, Fatih Salman. Well, it is a wrap for the week. We'd like to thank you for being such a great company. Of course, the AM Drive will come to your way again next week, Monday, from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. right here at Kwara State Television Authority. On behalf of Fatih Mohammed, we say goodbye and ensure you enjoy your weekend. And stay tuned to our 24-hour transmission right here at Kwara State Television Authority. My name is Oyinola Kare. Enjoy your weekend.
mi nípínlẹ̀ Kwara.
Kwara State Internal Revenue Service nìkan ló ní ẹ̀tọ́ láti ṣètò owó orí nípínlẹ̀ Kwara.
Pẹ̀lú àtìlẹ́yìn òfin.
KWIRS ń gba owó orí fún ìjọba ni. Wọ́n ò gbà ṣe ìjọba ṣe.
Wọ́n tún ṣe iṣẹ́ yìí pẹ̀lú òdodo àti àkọsílẹ̀ ìṣúná owó tó múnádóko.
Ìjọba tó wà lóde yìí ò gbé owó orí tuntun jáde o.
Owó orí tá à ń san tẹ́lẹ̀ ni wọ́n papọ̀ sójú kan.
Ìwọ ṣáàtì lọ gba ìwé owó orí rẹ kí o sì san sínú àpò Kwara IGR account lórí èyíkéyìí nínú àgbékalẹ̀ ayélujára tíjọba ṣe pẹ̀lú ìrọ̀rùn láti fi òpin sí ànádànù nípínlẹ̀ Kwara.
Ẹ jẹ́ ká san owó orí wa déédéé. Owó orí ò wà láti fìyà jẹ ẹnikẹ́ni. Ṣùgbọ́n kí iṣẹ́ mèremère tíjọba ṣe lè máa tẹ̀síwájú.
Ẹ̀rí jẹ́ mi ìṣóníṣẹ́ ìdàgbàsókè tó fojú wọn. Yálà èyí tó ti parí ní àbílẹ̀ tó ń lọ lọ́wọ́ ní gbogbo ìjọba ìbílẹ̀ nípínlẹ̀ Kwara. Látọdún 2019 tíjọba gómìnà Abdulrahman Abdulrasaq ti gorí àga ìṣàkóso. Èyí rí bẹ́ẹ̀ látàrí ìṣàmúlò àwọn owó pawọlé lábẹ́nú ìpínlẹ̀ yìí lọ́nà tó jíire. Òun ló jẹ́ kí ìdàgbàsókè ó máa fojú hàn lẹ́ka ètò ẹ̀kọ́, ìlera, ètò ààbò, dídá ojú ọ̀nà, ìrónilágbára, eré ìdárayá, ẹ̀ka ìgbafẹ́, iṣẹ́ àgbẹ̀, ìpèsè ohun amáyédẹrùn, ìpèsè ọ̀nà iṣẹ́ ìṣe àti bẹ́ẹ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ.
Iṣẹ́ àlejò nìkan lówó orí sísan tọ́ sí, àtonílé àtàlejò ló lẹ́tọ̀ọ́ láti máa san owó orí.
Fún ẹ̀kúnrẹ́rẹ́ àlàyé ẹ kàn sí wa ní nọ́mbà 27 Amadu Bello Way GRA Ìlọrin tàbí lọ́fíìsì wa tó wà ní gbogbo ìjọba ìbílẹ̀ káàkiri ìpínlẹ̀ Kwara. Ẹ tún lè kàn sí wa lórí wẹ́bsáìtì www.kwirs.com tàbí kẹ́ ẹ tẹ àtẹ̀jíṣẹ́ lórí ímeèlì wa helpdesk@kwirs.com tó fi mọ́ àwọn ẹ̀rọ alátagbà gbogbo lẹ́ẹ̀ tí lè kàn sí wa. Ẹ sì tún lè pe tẹlifóònù nọ́mbà yìí 070 06 95 94 76. 7. Play your part, pay your tax.
Kópa tirẹ̀ sanwó orí rẹ̀.
Ìkéde ìwà látọwọ́ Kwara State Internal Revenue Service KWIRS.
Ayo. Ara rẹ̀ wo ni.
Mo kọ́ta mo kọ́ pé o.
Ọ̀tá ń jẹ́ òpè gbọ́dọ̀ fọ́hùn. Ẹnu ẹ̀ ń gbọ́rọ̀. Toro tí ń jàjà ń pa mí láyò.
Kí ló dé? Sí ṣọ́ọ̀bù lẹ́ni ni. Mo máa ṣí o. Mo fẹ́ sáré sanwó orí ni.
Owó orí. Alẹ́ san fún.
Ṣebí Kwara State Internal Revenue Service náà ló ń gbà tẹ́lẹ̀.
Àwọn èèyàn màlẹ́tọ̀ àti gbà mọ́. Ìjọba tó wà ń bẹ̀ tẹ́lẹ̀ ló dá sílẹ̀. Nígbà tí ìjọba yẹn ò dẹ̀ ti sí ń bẹ̀ mọ́, àwa náà ò lẹ́tọ̀ọ́ àti sanwó orí síbẹ̀ mọ́.
Ó ti o kò rí bẹ́ẹ̀ rárá. KWIRS nìkan ló lẹ́tọ̀ọ́ láti gba owó orí. Lóòótọ́ ìjọba tó kọjá ló dá sílẹ̀ nítorí tó yẹ láti ṣe ní gbogbo ìpínlẹ̀ ni kí ìdàgbàsókè kó lè wà káàkiri. Kwara State Internal Revenue Service wà fún àǹfààní gbogbo wa ní ìpínlẹ̀ Kwara yálà lábẹ́ ìjọba tó ti kọjá àbí lábẹ́ ìjọba tó wà ń bẹ̀ ń sìn àbí tó ń bọ̀.